Stay tuned, stay tuned, stay tuned. I'm here with a comrade, Coach John Brent.
And I'm here with the vet, Mr. Ian Griffin, the lieutenant. I don't even know.
I don't know what they call
Sergeant Major.
Sergeant Major in the Armory, yes.
Yeah,
but we got a comrade hat right here. And not that they're our comrades.
I'm not with the KGB and we just didn't know it?
Yeah. I'm sitting here and we got us a little Russian hat that I got back in the day when they kind of we got liked each other for a little bit.
Please tell me there's some kind of story like you took it off of one in a bar fight or something.
Well, I actually went to a bar and there were some Ruskies there.
Oh, really?
And they were Navy and they had the blue pinstripe shirts.
Yeah.
And I was in Korea and they danced. And they rang that damn bell and bought us all damn drinks, like 5 of them that night.
Wow.
And they were dancing. Men, in America, men don't dance with men like that. But the Ruskies, men dance with men like that. I mean, you got something special going on over there. Yeah, different culture for sure. So we're here to talk about what the flip happened. And we're not supporting it. We're kind of happy that it happened. But dude, the Ruskies, man, y'all fell on your face on this here. We thought you were going to come in and kick some ass and take over a country real quick, and you have proved pretty much that we're like, we way overestimated them mother flippers and gave them way too much credit, which I'm all for this Ukraine thing, and I'm like, for the Ukraine thing, they're like waving that flag, we're kicking their ass.
Yeah.
So what the flip-flop, Coach? What do you think?
Well, I do know this. It seems like to me some miscalculation by Coach Putin, if you want to say it, because I mean, he goes into the game and everybody's thinking this is going to be a blowout, Alabama playing UFC or, Alcorn State or something. And all of a sudden you're in the third quarter here and the Russians are winning, but it's not a blowout.
No.
And the Ukrainians have become to the world the underdog that everybody's pulling for.
Yeah.
And, the great leader of Zelensky that myself probably couldn't even pronounce his name a few months ago. I see this guy, and it's hard for me to watch him speak without a tear coming in my eye because there's so much pride, there's so much ability to have his people just behind him. I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah, he exudes lead from the front. He exudes follow me because I'm leading you. He exudes all the attributes that we teach leaders in the United States Army all the time and through all military branches. Is, when you lead up front, soldiers will follow. When you lead from behind, they tend to not.
Correct.
But with this here, there's some major blunders in miscalculations, and I'm sitting here going 3-4 days, they're going to rain lead down, artillery down, massive amounts of artillery and rockets, and that's never transpired. And I'm like, what are you doing? I mean, dude, come on. Do you not have a logistics support hub there? Do you... and those are questions that I just look at and I'm like, why would you not rain lead down? And the only thing I can fathom initially, Coach, is this, is they way overestimated the people on the ground thinking that they were going to come and support them. Mm-hmm. So they didn't want to rain lead down to have undue casualties at first, but then that resistance kicked in too much, and then it put them in a bind that they can't do it so much now. Well, and so we're through all times, and I will talk a little bit about this, Coach, but we didn't see the superior Air Force. Mm-hmm. We don't see the superior artillery, and so where did all that go? And there's been rumors, supposedly, that Putin's he's keeping the T-14 and the T-90 back because he don't want that to get in foreign hands, and, he's keeping his best equipment because he don't want to get in foreign hands. Well, if it's so damn good, you don't have to worry about it getting foreign hands because you just kick their ass with it, And so I don't know, Coach.
Well, one of the things that this has brought out for me, not being in the military, but just being a person that studies history and studies some of the past, the nuclear warhead that a country can have, this shows the importance, how important it really is. Because there are so many countries, over 150 countries right now, they're just saying this is wrong. But none, like the big boys, being us, Great Britain or whatever, we can't go in and do what we want to do. And even what most of our people want us to do is to stop this mess. But we cannot do it because of the tactic and fear of a nuclear World War III.
So I will say Iran is sitting here just taking notes, going, we are going to get that nuke. we are going to get that. And
Because then you
that's
can't do
exactly
it.
what they're saying. We are about to have leverage in Middle East like you ain't ever seen. They're saying that, and Korea is saying that. We're going to develop the nuke because it expands our leverage and people don't mess with us so much. And so if you think about that, this all started, and I'm only going to touch on it in a second, but this would have never happened if we didn't have Afghanistan forward the way it did.
I agree.
And if we had the president say, put sanctions on about the time of Afghanistan instead of, well, I'll attack you with sanctions later mentality.
Vet, I agree. I agree.
World leaders sense weakness and they exploit it.
There's no doubt in my mind that Putin has been wanting to do this for a number of years.
Oh, for many.
And with a new administration come in, you never really know, even though he has some backtracking or, in the back that he was with Obama, Biden was, but you never really know how they're going to act at that moment. Afghanistan let him know exactly what Biden would do at a moment.
Yeah.
And he backed up, backed away, made excuses. And someone that's Putin, if you know anything about him coming in the way he did, worked in St. Petersburg and then becoming part of the KGB, that whole mind thing of manipulation and do that stuff, he could read in a minute the weakness of Joe Biden.
Yeah, he saw that, and we said this before, so I won't elaborate too long, but he needed the right president at the right time. He needed NATO to be weak at the right time. Everybody said NATO's strong. NATO ain't proving nothing yet. All they're doing is shipping some goods. So let's back off that until a NATO country gets hit, and then you tell me if they're strong or not, because that's going to be the telltale.
But what could they really do? Now, I don't want to change the subject, but let's just look at it this way. Well, at least it wasn't the NATO. If they were to touch Georgia, right? Georgia's a part of the NATO, right?
Latvia, Lithuania, and Estonia up at the top, right there.
Okay, pick one of them.
Latvia.
Let's say tomorrow Putin goes in.
Yep.
Do you 100% believe, because of the nuclear situation that we're talking about, that the United States and all these NATO countries will say, okay, you have 30 days to get out or we're going to come
I wouldn't even say
kick
that.
you out?
That's why I'm not the leader of NATO, because I wouldn't say that. I would be like, you hit NATO, I'm destroying everything that you ever breathed
But do you
upon.
think that would happen?
That's not going to happen because we are going back to 1939. We have Chamberlain as our president, and we'll cover
We
that
need
in a
Churchill, baby.
We do. We need the bulldog there's going to be, supposedly the strength of NATO is supposed to be the strength of all the nations combined. But the strength of NATO is the American resolve. It counts for 40 to 60% of it, given any time in history. And then the other countries are like, hey, the Americans did it, so we'll do it. So it is really that right there. But our resolve's been down for the last 20 years. Putin saw this opportunity and goes, I'm going to push this envelope as far as possible. Because I will tell you, if he had more success in Ukraine, I would not be surprised if he didn't go hit a NATO country and go, make me stop. Yeah. Make me stop. And that wouldn't surprise me at all. Now, we got to talk a second on his technology, though, is, during the times when we developed it in the late 70s and early 80s, when we developed the M1 Abrams tank, we went technology heavy in regarding that. We sit there and we made sure that we had thermals, and we made sure we had some other things regarding that, like heat imaging and things of that nature, and laser finders, and stabilization on the turret. Well, for a long time, the Russians did not do that with their tanks at all. They're like, we just got a tank that's going to send a big round down range, and you're going to deal with it. And in Iraq and Desert Storm, it proved to be faulty. We thought that they were jumping on the bandwagon to overcompensate for that and come back and turn to technology, but either they haven't, one, or two, they're keeping all that because the rumor is he didn't want us to capture that technology like we already have it, or three, it's been a propaganda campaign the whole time and he really doesn't have it.
Well, that happened in the Cold War. For so many years, we heard about the big bad Soviet Union, and when it came down to it, it really wasn't that big and that bad. And we understood what we could do economically to crush that.
Yeah.
So, we've always been, like my dad used to say, he used to go to bed at night fearing that the end of the world could happen because the propaganda was working not only there, but also our news media and people here were making us fear them to this point of just being so scared. Well, that's kind of where we are again right now. People have this fear of Putin, and they have this non-fear of Biden going on in the world. So how in the world are we going to handle that going forward? I think it's huge coming up with the next couple elections with the midterms coming up,
Yeah.
and then especially with going forward with the next. Are we going to stay on this progressive kind of a weakness kind of in the world stage, or are we going to have some badass stand up and go, we're not going to take this crap no more?
Yeah.
And
So-
that's going to be huge.
So I'm going to touch on a couple of things. I'm going to throw a scenario out there that really hadn't been talked about. But first of all, I'm going to say right now we're in the laissez-faire of foreign policy. It's like, it happens, and, you know, we'll deal with the outcome. And, yeah, it'll just make our gas prices go higher, and all the American people pay for it. We don't really care. That's kind of where we're at, instead of being the leader of the free world. Right now, we have taken a back seat on leading in that. Zelensky is the leader of the free world right now. I hate to tell it to anybody.
Let me ask you this, and I don't want to interrupt you,
Yeah.
but you being in the military and understand, is that a bad thing? Because the option that we have is Biden's the leader.
Well, that is true, but that also diminishes the Americans' world power, okay? Now, kind of just coincidental is the Russians have blundered us so bad that in some aspects it strengthened the alternative. It was like, you buy Russian equipment, you buy American. Oh, we're going to buy American shit because your shit sucks. You know? So then in some angles, it kind of strengthens that. Let me throw this scenario out here that nobody wants to hear, but we have dealt with Russia close to 100 years, not quite, but close to it. And 80 to 70 of those years, them being pretty much our foe in almost every shape, form, or
Sure.
fashion. And we haven't fought them directly, but the rumor says that 80% of the military is tied up in Ukraine. And I'm sitting here going, why are we not flying American flag over freaking Russia right now? I'm just asking. If 80% of the military is there, and if that's what 80% of the military is like, holy Samsonite, that's
Well,
weak.
maybe one word or two, nuclear bomb.
Yeah,
we
no,
can't.
that is it. It is the deterrence of the nuclear weapon.
And that's why when you bring
You
up
know-
Iran and you bring up North Korea and you bring up things like that, that's why they want them.
Yes,
Because they
because-
become a small player to being a world player.
They can make a decision, and if you don't like it, all they got to say is,
Yeah, but we got this.
we got the nuke, you know.
All right, so one thing I want to bring to you and also
Yeah.
to people that are listening is the propaganda is huge.
Oh, it is.
Okay? Now, propaganda that you're hearing now, and I've seen a lot of news things about what the people are telling, what the Russian government, Putin army are telling the Russian people is that they're trying to save Ukraine from fascism.
Yeah.
And we're going in and saving the Ukrainians for this fascist dictator.
That's the Russian propaganda.
Yeah, that's the Russian propaganda. And then what I'm finding out is once these Russian people get there, they think they're coming in to save people, and these people
Yeah.
going, dude, what are you talking about? We're happy with what we are.
Yeah.
So the Russian military guys are actually thinking they're doing a service for the Ukrainians, and then when they're getting over there, they're finding out, wait a minute, we're being lied to. How long can Putin hold on to that military?
That's a good question.
That way.
That's a good question. And so it depends on how far it stems into. If it just, is it with the troops, or does it breed over into the senior officers and field marshals and generals?
And we've
such?
been hearing a little bit about them, those senior ones
Yeah.
being disciplined and being
Yeah, because-
having issues.
Well, if they're disciplined, you
They-
know.
Siberia, 10 years.
Yeah, if they're not disciplined, they go to Siberia. you know,
exactly.
And their family and everybody else
Yeah.
in separate locations, and you never find them again.
Right.
If they're disciplined, because they want a position later, you know,
Yeah, I
and
got you.
so things of that nature, or they want, or not want their family to be sent out to Siberia, of course.
I'm going to take this crazy because I love to do it. We were staying neutral in World War II.
Yeah,
Remember, but we were really not.
we really weren't. If somebody wanted to take war to the extreme in every angle of looking at things, a good leader that was fighting against our allies would have said America's in war from day one.
Right.
With the
Prior to
land lease
December
program.
7th,
Yeah.
1941.
Yeah, with the land lease program. They
Yeah,
would
it
have
didn't
said-
take Pearl Harbor for us to be involved. My question gets to now, we are underhanded, under the table, what do you want to say, in helping
Yeah.
them out. From a propaganda standpoint, wouldn't it be to Russia's advantage to have a press conference with Putin saying specifically, hey, this is what's going on.
Yeah.
We are actually at war with the United States because they're at war with us.
So, but I'm going to tell you the reason why. There's two reasons why he won't do that right now. Now, he may change on me, and I could be wrong, but there's two major reasons why. One is because it wouldn't have took us that long to take over Ukraine.
Yeah.
That's the first thing, because our army is still the baddest thing that is known to existence. The second thing is because we have that magical word too, called the nuke.
Yeah.
And the difference is, though, is we don't have the crazy guy like we had before that was like, I'm just going to use the nuke, and the world believed it.
Yeah.
Now we have the guy that got to eat his ice cream and ask Jen Psaki if he's allowed to get to the briefcase and, and everything else.
You mean MSNBC's own?
Oh,
Jim.
yeah, yeah.
Okay,
Now MSNBC owns the presidency, I guess, now.
That's the feeder. It's like the minor leagues to MSNBC is working in the Biden administration.
Yeah,
Did you know
it's
that?
just-
It's kind of crazy.
Well, I mean, she's probably going to get paid well for working. She probably gets paid handsomely. So, but anyway.
You and I talked about this a little bit before, but you haven't seen Vice News. And I tell people, watch Vice News just for the video and the interviews that they're having on the ground. There's a great interview that the guy from Vice News has with a couple of the mayors in town, or in some of the towns, and also with Zelensky himself. But one of the things that I saw of it, you got the mayor, the boxer,
Yeah.
but you also have another mayor and another one that I saw. They're walking around with AK-47s, Jack,
Yeah.
as mayors in their city. Could you imagine Mayor Sean Kennington in Pittsburgh or Mayor Rudy Giuliani walking around New York City
Yep.
with an AR?
That'd be awesome.
Yeah, but that's telling you what's going on is they're having to do that for survival in
Yes.
their places. And these guys getting cower and going a hole. This guy's walking the streets, Jack, with an AK-47. And when they asked Zelensky about the Russians coming over here, not Zelensky, this mayor, they asked him about the Russians coming over and trying to kill him. He said, we'll just kill them first.
Yeah.
Their attitude is, we are fighting for our survival.
Yeah.
And we're sending, what are we sending now? I don't know. Who knows what we're
Oh,
sending.
we're sending tons of money.
I'm
over
sure they
there.
got electric blankets going over there or something.
Yeah. But I will say, regarding to that, I'm kind of different because I've been in a culture where everybody walks around with a weapon, and
Yeah.
it doesn't bother me, and we're used to it, and as long as we don't see the other weapon, or the enemy of the weapon, we're like, hey guys, I mean, you go to the chow hall and you put your weapon down, and you're like, or for me, later in the career, I had my 9 right here, and we eat, it's no big deal. So we're used to that. But you're right, regarding, they are defending their home. That's the hardest enemy to deal with, is the one that we defend their own home. Right. One of the things that we've trained so much over the years, and our former chief of staff wanted the Russians to know this, that we will uproot Americans anywhere and go on your home turf and kick your own ass in your hometowns. And so that fight will never come to us. Right. That was one of the biggest things, that we will ship across the world everything we got. So the Russians just tried to do that with a neighboring border, and they got their ass handed to them by a bunch of people who sit there and on Sunday was eating, family dinners and expecting to be doctors the next day. And the next day they're picking up AK-47s.
So the difference being, and that's why I want to ask you this question, so the true difference of, and let me try to get this out quickly, is we have Saddam Hussein, and I think it was 90 or 91,
Yeah.
invades Kuwait, a neighboring country.
1990,
invades Kuwait, a neighboring country. The world stage with George H.W. Bush said, okay, we're not going to stand for this. You have until this day, and we're going to get you out. And we start amassing troops.
Yeah.
Saddam Hussein, we thought, had nuclear weapons, or not nuclear weapons, chemical weapons, and possibly had some other weapons that he used on the Kurds and things like that. But so you're telling me the real difference of us not putting a coalition together, not only is the president, George H.W. Bush and Joe Biden being a difference, but also their major difference is we know for sure they have enough nuclear weapons to deter us. Is that the reason?
So back in your favorite subject, back in the day when we had the Cuban Missile Crisis, is when we established the term called mutually assured destruction.
Yeah.
And right now that we have enough nukes on both sides to make sure that we make it a living hell for anything that could even exist after that in the United States and in Russia itself. There's enough there to do it. So massing the troops, there's a challenge with that. We never feared that Saddam Hussein had nukes. We feared he had Scuds, which are powerful still. But with Russia, if you mass troops and they have nukes, well, they can take out a big portion of the military suddenly. But there should have been some massing at the Polish border. And because I'm just saying is he's in the candy store right now. And he sees in the back corner the little candy called Latvia, Lithuania, and Estonia. And it looks really good to him if he can get Ukraine.
Well, my military question to you is this going to end up being, because he's got control of a certain part of Ukraine right now.
Yep.
Okay. Is this going to end up being, in your estimation, a North Korea, South Korea type situation, East-West Berlin type situation where they're going to split that sucker and he's just going to keep part what he has? He's not giving any of that back?
Well, see, he did that with the Crimea.
Right.
And, but he came out publicly, and he, before this ever happened, that the president didn't pay him no mind because he was too busy controlling him, as he said, you know. And but he's come out publicly and said that the Soviet Union should never fell.
Right. Now, he believes that.
And he believes that. And I will say, it's a difference in upbringing and belief, okay? And not making it say that it's right, but if you understand the point of view from the Russians, that they believe that should never happen. And so when you understand that, then you can understand your enemy. Okay, but if you don't understand it, you just be pissed at the enemy and you never understand them. But to understand that, they believe that that's theirs.
Yeah, and that was one of the biggest embarrassments to him,
yes.
reading about him, was when he was a part of the government.
He said that publicly.
Yeah.
He said it numerous times. This is what he's going to do. That's the first thing. Second thing, he's not young. He's 72, 73. Right. He's not young and spry as he used to be. So what has he got to live for? He's been the president before. So he's living for a legacy. Yeah. And so what will make him have a legacy? Regaining what was rightfully Russia's.
Well, the elephant,
in his mind.
Yeah, the elephant in the room that everybody always says, depending on which side of the pendulum you're on politically, I have to ask it to you, would this happen if Donald Trump won a second?
Not at all. It would never got there. You know, it would have never got, first thing, that would have never got there, one. Two, if the liberals didn't push that bogus impeachment crap for so damn long and allowed him to have a relationship with Russia, this would have completely been different.
Russian collusion.
Yeah, this would have been completely different because maybe he would have done what George W. Bush did and brought him over for a barbecue or something. Yeah. And everybody's going, why would you want him? You got to understand about politics, real politics, not this bullshit we have in America. If you want to control a world leader, you bring him close to you. Okay, that don't mean you have to love him, but that does mean that you have to control him. And if you want to control a world leader, you got to make him feel good about certain things. And you go, well, he's over there killing people. Yeah, I got that. He is. And he's wrong as F this, and he needs to freaking go to hell, and we need to get rid of him now. But before, you could have sit there, and you could have had some appeasements in there that didn't involve territory and didn't involve people dying and things of that nature. And then you would have had him under your thumb. You know, you would have had the puppet master going on right there.
More innocent people are dying, and seeing some of the reports, I mean, there's thousands of people dying over there that are instances that aren't military people, that are just men, women, children living.
This is a perfect example, Coach, of failed foreign policy on our part, and the second and third order effects is people dying. Yeah. And we don't take it that seriously in America, like, no, the president's not responsible for that. He's not even over there.
What is the president responsible for when you like the president is a good question, and I don't want to spin it away, but if you are for a president, to you, he's not responsible for anything except for a positive number. And the opposite, if you're against that person, it's the way it's being. It's not his economy if it's bad. Oh, he had a job. It's not his problem with the gas. It's Russians' problem. You know, even though you can show data, but. So what I'm saying is we're living in such a political time right now. You're right. Real politics is not what this is.
Yeah.
The real politics is what's going on with him. Could have been dealing with Putin and all that. We deal with psycho politics, as I call it.
Yeah, we deal with some bullshit.
Yeah.
Just to stir some people up, emotional things. This here, though, to me, no matter what party, no matter what belief they are, the president's first priority is to protect the ideas and the sanctity of Americans. That's the first one, okay? The second one is that goes hand in hand with that is if you have a good foreign policy, you're doing that all the time. But if you have a bad foreign policy, you put things in jeopardy and in danger. And that's the challenge that we have is people will say, well, the laissez-faire idea will put Americans in danger later. I'm just saying, because somebody's either going to have to regain their territory, or it's going to be there, and people are going to train constantly in case that scenario happens, all because of this policy that we put in there.
Well, you said you can lead from the front or you lead from the back, or I don't know how you exactly said it, but the way that I look at this is this whole administration since day one looks like they're just doing nothing but putting out fires after the fires have been started on their watch.
Yeah, well, after the fires have been started and after the fires are already roaring, they don't even wait till like, hey, there's smoke around.
And then the way they put them out is not a way that's best for anyone except for the politics part on their side.
It's what's best for the administration.
Correct.
You think about this, and we're going a long time, and I'll think about the oil thing. Anybody with any brain would say, lessen the restrictions, let the American businesses do major business back in America. Whether you like the pipeline or not, that's the common sense, most rational decision to be made in that. But instead we go, well, if the oil companies wasn't so greedy. We do that from the political White House podium. What the flip-flop? What kind of crap is that?
I have an uneducated inmate that said the best thing this week. He said, why don't he just, if he doesn't want to mess with the greenies, that's what he said, then why don't you just sign a temporary 6-month only where we can just unleash everything for 6 months. All the pipelines, all the drilling for 6 months, and then after that it's done. But you get 6 months to get us out of this crap.
Yeah, and what did you say before?
That makes too much sense.
You said it before. Let the oil companies go declare war on Russia and let them end this real quick. And that's all he had to do.
That's it.
You know, that's all he had to do. Anyway, so the big deal is there's been some major blunders, and maybe we took Russia as a military force maybe more seriously than we should have, to be honest.
And I think maybe you're right. I think the military force we believe that Russia is really not as big and bad as we had it propped up to be. But I think our ineptness, in the political levels here in our administration is made it feel like they are that.
Yes. And so I will say that's some propaganda on our own part. It kind of felt us. One thing I want to close out on though, Coach, got a little Russian hat here. And when I went to basic training back in 1989, oh my gosh, the targets that we shot were green. They were pop-up targets. And on the center of their little helmet was that Russian star. Every soldier shot at Russian stars because that was our enemy. And,
can you still do that in 2022, or is that considered to be mean?
No, I think they still have the targets.
Okay.
Some of them still may have the stars. I don't know. But
I didn't know if we were supposed to shoot them to wound them.
No. You shouldn't. They don't pick nothing back up and come back after you. So anyway,
all right.
From the coach, my comrade,
to the vet, the man.
It's time to stay tuned, stay tuned, stay tuned.